Hey folks, Technivorous here. Today we're going to be taking a look at something I found to be quite special, and I think you'll be interested as well. So, it's a little preview. This is a simple geometric shape made of a block which has had a ball or a sphere subtracted from it. Okay, not a big deal, but I want to show you the program that made this object. So what's so special about this program? Well, it's generative design using code. The code it uses is a .lua programming language, and some of the designs that can be made are pretty impressive. These are all examples that are included with the software, but you can definitely make your own. And as you'll see here, some of the geometries get quite complex, and it's all shown right here. How you're modeling, it's generated through this code window right here. This is called IceSL. And it's not just for building models, it's also a slicer. So this model that you saw at the beginning was sliced and printed with IceSL on my Ender 3. There is a setting in here for the Ender 3. You can see that at the top of the window. And we're going to jump right into checking this out right now. Alright folks, so here's the deal. I am constantly on the lookout for new slicers, especially ones on the free side and with different and more powerful features. Now, this one is one that I had not seen on any list I've checked before until just recently. I believe it was last week I was taking a peek through some newer free slicers, and I did find a couple. Now, this is the first one that I'm going to show you of these new slicers I found because it is the one that blew me away and I found the most astounding. So if you're into checking out new slicers, make sure you subscribe. I am always looking for a new one, and if you've never seen this slicer before or heard of it, leave a like on the video. Let me know that you appreciate me pointing it out for you. Also, if there's any slicers that you know of that you haven't seen me cover on the channel, feel free to drop those in the comment box down below, and I'll definitely check them out. But for now, this is IceSL. So what are we looking at here? Why does this get me so excited? Well, let me show you in simple terms, okay? I'm going to take all of this cluttered code you see here on the left, and I'm just going to say delete. And then I'm just going to add my own shape. And the way you do that is by typing emit shape. I'm going to type C cubed, and I can give it a size here. We're going to make it 40, and there it appears. Okay. You can also do several other things, such as subtract by using difference. So now I'm using the difference of my cube shape, and I'm going to subtract from it the sphere. Gotta get those inside the brackets. And there you see, this is basically the model that I printed earlier. Okay, super simple, one line of code, just a couple of things. Now, some of those models that you saw earlier are far more complex, and we can go in and I will open another one of the demo models, and just to show you, these are all of the demo models that they have here, and they are Lua files. Basically, it's going to load that script into the side here, and when it does, it's going to go through it and it's going to generate that design. Like I said, the things that you can make are quite complex, but it can also load meshes. So this is an example of it's loading two different meshes from two paths that are pathed in the folder there. And we can actually go and find this folder. It's in our resources here. So file, open, you see this folder, this meshes folder here. These are all the ones that have meshes. So let's see, let me check this out yet. This is a spider. It looks like it's a pretty sweet robotic spider model, and it appears to be incomplete. So some of these are for tutorials for you to follow along and finish the model, so that's probably why that one's not showing up. The rest of these I have tested, and they work really well. So there is no mesh for this. This is all built through this code right here. So some of the things that you can make with this, like I said, are just astounding, the complex geometries. Or it's taking, there's one in here of a dragon that takes two files, and I'll show you real quickly how easy it is to edit one of those files. We'll grab dragon, open. And you can see here there is the dragon, and then there is also the heart, and it has the code for what is done to each of those. Okay, so K is representing a rotate. It's rotating the path. So it's loading this model and then rotating it the way it wants it. This is doing the same thing to the heart, and then it's translating and moving these. So the translate is basically just a movement. So if I take this to minus 44, you'll see it. Maybe not from this angle here. Let's try this one. It doesn't seem to be doing what I wanted to. Oh, there's another model too. There's the eyes as well. But basically, this is emitting K1. We know K1 is the dragon model. So if I take and delete this, it leaves just the heart and the eyes. Okay, I don't want to do that. You just comment it out this way. Same with this. I can get rid of the heart. It leaves that cavity there. But the interesting thing about this is you can take two meshes in here, and you can do the difference of those two meshes and subtract one from the other. Now this is awesome because it's not really subtracting a block or something like that. It'll subtract the whole shape. So what else is going on here? Well, you'll notice down at the bottom that it's two different colors are being set as brush colors here. And that is going to determine which extruder is printing what. So this is actually a model made for dual extrusion and can be printed with two different colors on the same printer. We'll get into the printing and slicing in just a minute. Let's take a look at one more file real quick because these are really cool. And let's try this one. Okay, now this is just one of the generative designs that they have made to show you the capabilities of what it can do. I assume they made an oval, elongated it, put a hole through it, and then dimpled it with what looks like some different, centroid is what they're calling it. So that's pretty cool. You can see exactly how this shape is done here, and you can actually cylinder. Okay, so I take this cylinder to 45. You can see it changes the shape in there, and it's putting it in at an angle, so it's passing through like this instead of at a 90-degree angle. So basically what they're doing is they're declaring their shapes, and this is a shape called difference, and it is actually an array of shapes inside it. So there are 4 different shapes inside this array called difference, and then it's going to basically put them in right here by saying R equals difference, and then emit R. So this is a lot of like really basic coding, and I actually don't know this language. That's why you saw me struggling a little bit with the commenting, but it is really, really intuitive, and if you know Java or C# or JavaScript or Python or anything like that, it's pretty easy to pick up. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Python in the fact that it seems to be top down and not so much method centric like C# or Java. So really, really fun to play around with the scripting. But since we've done that, let's find a model that we can play around with the print settings for. So let's open. We're not going to save the settings. And let's check out this. This is pretty cool. Now this should print without needing supports, but I did want to show you how to add in supports because that system is really cool. So we can actually close the script editor up here. There is also a console window down here for console input. We don't need that open right now either. We are going to open the slicer settings. So when we go in here, you'll see what service we're using, and we are slicing it to G code. You can also export the mesh or slice to SVG. We're going to slice right to G code so we can put it right to our printer. There are a ton of printer models. I haven't actually looked to see if there is a generic one in here. I would assume that there are several that will work, but I've chosen my Ender 3 because that's what I printed the model on earlier. There are several quality profiles. We don't need to look at that too much. There are different material settings. Those are going to affect mostly temperature, things like that. So if we go to information here, we get the model dimensions, and that's about it. What we want is settings. So there's a lot of stuff in here. And a lot of these can actually be expanded further. But we'll go through them one at a time just real quick, okay? So there are, I mean, you can turn them on and off over here. I'm not using multi-material. We'll leave that off. Then there are several other ones. So the first one is slicing. Pretty simple stuff in here. Layer thickness. This button here will set it to print per layer thickness, and it'll calculate that itself. You can also click optimize layer heights and a couple other options here. So there's some print speed options, thick and thin features that'll allow you to print things that are a little bit too tiny for your nozzle and things like that. You can also paint to specify the seam location. Now if I'm going to paint to specify the seam location, I'm going to put it on a back corner here. But basically that means it's going to put it wherever you put that paint. So that is a really handy tool to have if you want to specify exactly where the seam goes, and also amazing abilities in here. So let's check out the travel. We're going to go ahead and leave most of this the same. There is a retraction setting, and there are a couple more settings having to do with that a little bit further in. And we're going to look at brush 1 and brush 0. So we're not using brush 1 at all because we only have one extruder. So we're going to go to brush 0, and we're going to pick an extruder. Since we only have the one extruder, it's not letting us change this. So we could change it if we had another extruder set up on our printer, but this is an Ender 3 and it is only one nozzle. So don't need to mess with the brushes right now. The actual extruder itself, you will want to go in and change, because originally this was set at 2.8 instead of 1.75, so you're going to want to adjust that. And I printed in PETG, so I adjusted my temperature down here as well. But since this is the PLA profile, I should probably change it back before I forget. Then the next settings you have are supports. Supports are interesting as well, and one of the interesting things about this is you can put, you can paint where to put support, where it's needed on high pressure points there, and then you can slice and it'll generate the support. But you can also select points to support, and we're going to do that real quick, but in order to do that we have to slice first. So it is actually pretty fast for all the stuff that it's going through, and considering that it's going through all of this in code layer by layer in order to determine the geometry of that shape, it is really impressive. The preview mode itself also is pretty impressive, so you can make it show as much as you want. I do like the view of this. As you drag it up, it shows you all of that, and then if you drag it back, it'll show you the previous layers, but you can get the whole model in there, and you can see where we painted and it interdicted that support. So that's cool and all, but let's go ahead now and select a couple more points to support. So it's going to put all these points on the exterior of the model at points that have really high angles, and basically what you do is you just click on them, and they turn green if you click on them right. Let's just do them all up and down this corner here. So and then the interesting thing about the support is it's like a combination of pillar and tree support. Now we can go and slice it again, and we should see on this point some pretty straight down pillars, but they might be, oh, we need to close that, that's why. Yeah, so here we get all these other points, and let's select a couple more, and we'll put one on here just to see if it shows up where we put it, and then we hit slice again. Yes, replace the file. It does go through it again. It slices really fast, guys. It's impressive. I really like it. Okay, so now we need to see the whole model in order to generate the support, to see the support, so let's do that. Okay, and now you can see all of those points where I added the support on the corner, on the inside. It added in these tree support like pillars. It did not add it to the angle where it didn't need it on the top where I clicked that, which is actually a good thing because you're not going to waste support material by putting it somewhere you don't need it. So that's pretty cool. As we slice, it also exports our file, so I could at this point continue on. I kind of wish that it put the supports at the very bottom because there are other things to look at down here. Now you can print it with a cavity, which means it's going to come out hollow. That'll reduce print time and material. That's pretty cool. There are adhesion settings. Now these are your brim raft skirt settings, so it is set to a brim, and the distance between the brim and the print is set to 1, which means it's going to give you a skirt. If you want to get an actual brim, you need to change that to 0. That way it's touching the model. Cooling, pretty standard. You get control of the fan. You can enable it right away, or you can enable it after it builds up to a certain layer or percentage. Those are pretty standard options for a slicer as well. Shield. Now, I haven't actually used this option yet, but it generates a shield just like a draft shield, and in fact, from what it looks like, the shield actually encases the whole model. So let's look if that's correct. If I slice it again, it should do it with the shield, and we should get a preview of that also in our G-code as well. There it is. You can see it's kind of flower shaped down there. So if we scroll up all the way to the tippy top and take it back a bit, yeah, it's not closing out the top, but it does look like it does a pretty good job of shielding that in there. So if you're printing in ABS, that is a nice looking draft shield that you can rock there. And then the tower, you're really only going to use with the double extrusion. There's a priming and a purging tower, and then the printer here. Now this is where you set the bed size and the printer model. This showed up after I changed this. I actually didn't notice it up there, but you can change it either way. If you need to adjust the bed size, that's going to be here. Your height is actually determined in the firmware on the printer that you're using, so I haven't put anything on here that's too high yet, so I haven't gotten that error, but I'm sure that it says something, or at least gives a warning, but I don't know yet. Then you have processing. So there are several slicing algorithms, and at this point there is some stuff you can add in here for doing, well, see, there's no point in doing post-processing scripts by adding G-code, because you're doing all of that in here. This did print a nice little purge line. It was about 3 inches on the front of my build plate at the very tip, and I'm not sure where the setting for that purge line is. So I would like to find it and adjust it a little bit, but the positioning is good, and it's good that it does that before it starts printing the skirt. So all in all, guys, this is an amazing piece of software. I highly encourage you to check it out. Real quickly, before we go too far, let's go ahead and just grab all of this and delete it here, and I will show you standard procedure. I'm just going to grab something random here. And you have to drag it to the code side here. And then it'll import it. And there we have the model that I imported. I just dragged and dropped. This was an STL. And then I can do anything with this that I can do with all of the shapes. So pretty amazing tool. I'm curious to see what you guys are capable of doing with software that's this powerful. Like I said, definitely leave a like if you like this software. You're going to be seeing a lot more of it, because there's some really cool things I want to do with the code and just building objects and kind of mashing them together and taking them apart. But if you need to like disassemble a model or do some certain things like that, there are a lot of really cool options in here for getting things exactly how you want. The only options I didn't really see a lot of was infill settings and things like that. But I am very pleased with how this model came out for my first model. I am going to tweak the settings a little bit, but as you saw, it was pretty good. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and like I said, leave a like. Don't forget to ring the bell for more notifications, and we will let you know if we find any slicers that are as cool as this one. But I have the feeling that this one is going to be taking the cake for quite a while, especially for people like me who are enthusiasts of not only 3D printing but also coding and that area of tech as well. So if you're a Technivore, go ahead and grab the link below and devour this, because it is something that should be in everybody's artillery when it comes to 3D printing. And that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for stopping by. If you'd like to become a Technivore, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. And YouTube's suggesting a video for you right here. And there's a playlist right here that's just 3D printing stuff. Also, if you'd like to see your name up top with the rest of my Patreon supporters, head over to www.patreon.com/Technivorous. There, You too can contribute to the channel and make the Technivorous channel even better.